Hi friends, this is Marilyn again from tarotclarity.com, and my last video was a Dodal. It was the Dodal by Tarot Sheet Revival, Sullivan Hismans. So if you haven't caught that, I would suggest you go back and catch it. Today's video is also on a Dodal. This one was gifted to me. I won it from Justin Michael's channel. And I asked him a little bit about it, and he said it was a deck. It was Shel David's first edition of his Dodal Tarot deck with traditional colors, redrawn based on facsimiles, and Justin Michael printed it and hand cut it. After I've done this video, I'll be doing, in a few days, I'll be also highlighting the Dodal Tarot by Artisan Tarot. This is a preview copy, so there already have been changes made for the final version, which I believe will be coming out, in a few months. Those of you who've been following my channel, you know that the Artisan group this is their third deck, and they have at least 2 or 3 more in the works. I'm very excited about their decks because they're awesome workhorse decks. Okay, so here we are with Shel David's first edition of his Dodal. And you'll notice the squared corners. Oh, the color is great. A nice deep burgundy. Again, I like keeping certain idiosyncrasies, and I appreciate that they kept that partial dog, or he. Again, we see the spilling of paint, which is kind of nice. I like seeing that. It's not in your face, blurry and hard to understand what's going on. It's just an artistic touch that is, you see it over here. That is very nice. I will do, I think, after I do the next one with the Artisan group, I'll be doing a video comparing the 4 Dodals that I have, just to see a comparison of how different publishers can take the same historic deck and what decisions they make. And that's not probably all that different from how deck creators created decks in the first place. They saw a deck they liked, or they saw a deck that was in their shop to reproduce or whatever. And, they made decisions. I think it's an interesting process to compare. One of the things with the Dodal and other decks too is to look at the names, and the spellings. Because sometimes a word is as powerful as a number, which is as powerful as an image, right? I think I commented on the Tarot Sheet Revival, also holding on to this anomaly, whereas this post is straight until it gets to the top. Here we have a disjointed post. For export, which appears on a few cards in this deck, which may account for why it's called, Dodali rather than Dodal. If it's being exported to another country, say like Italy, if they're appealing to Italian tastes, then having an Italian name or an Italian sounding name might have been beneficial. Here again we have the devil with a tongue sticking out. I had just received one of my Christmas presents from my daughter was a deck of Krampus playing cards, which I didn't know anything about Krampus and until I got this deck. And then, of course, I researched it because that's, how I go. That's how I go through life. And Krampus was the counterpart, the German counterpart, or the German-speaking country's counterpart to St. Nicholas, to keep children in line when they were naughty. And his physical attributes were particularly a long red tongue, which is not here, but we've seen it in other decks, like we've seen it in the Via, and hairy legs, which we've seen in, on the devil in other decks, and a hooven foot and a human foot, which is not here. But these are little idiosyncrasies that you start noticing in other decks, and then, I never would have associated with Krampus because I didn't know about Krampus. But now when I look at a devil card, I'm constantly going to be looking for characteristics of Krampus just to see. Beautiful colors. I really love the colors. Very rich. I love the burgundy for red. Excuse me. I'm coming down from some kind of virus. I don't know if it was COVID. I tested 2 days after getting symptoms with a rapid test, which showed negative, but I'm not convinced. I kind of wonder if I had it. I still have it, to tell you the truth, but I am getting better. But boy, oh boy, I got sick. I'm vaccinated and boosted. Thank God, because if I wasn't, and this was COVID, I think it would have done me in for sure. Not that I'm trying to use my platform for anything, but I just want to say, if this was a cold, I can't imagine catching COVID. So we have a little bit of a bleed on the sword. So this is really, I don't know if Shell David has any decks for sale, but if he were, I'd probably be in line. Nice. So there's, ways of, handling the suit of swords and batons, whereby you might show the weaving individually and clean it all up. Or you may, adhere to, how they did it, or how it appears on the facsimile decks, a little bit of a bleed and kind of confusion a little bit. There's a place for both, I think when it's cleaned up and you can definitely see the definition of the weaving, I think it's really sharp, and I think it really, is crisp and clean and just is very attractive. But I also have appreciation for when it's not that way, And sometimes when you read a deck, and you have, like, say, 2 decks that have the eight of swords and you lay them down, there's just something about one that catches your eye that might alter an interpretation, whereas, and get a different interpretation than you might get from another deck of the same, another card of the same, deck from a different, well, you know what I'm saying, from a different, publishing house. So it's not just a matter of saying, oh, the 9 of Swords means this, right? You can have that vocabulary, you can have that understanding and that knowledge in your head of what the 9 of Swords means by itself, although I don't typically read cards by themselves, but it's particularly when they're around other cards. But then also, you can just look at them for their own physical nature, or how they tend to be, or how they happen to be pointing, for example, in a particular reading, or, just however it strikes you, visually, number, or, if you have a definition in mind for the card. I hope that made sense. Again, and maybe it showed on a few cards that I already passed by without commenting, but in the Dodal, it is mentioned a few times that it is for export, which may explain on some occasions why there are misspellings, right? Sometimes there are misspellings or peculiarity about the way a word is written. And here it is, Dodal. Because if somebody is, not Italian or French or whatever language, that the deck is supposed to be printed in, there could be anomalies. But I think it only adds to it. Now let me see, were there anomalies with the 6 here? No. Yeah, oh no, this is corrected. So I think he corrected. I don't remember if the original Dodali, which suits that the numbers were incorrect. So I don't know if Shel David has any decks for sale, but if he, here we are, for the 6, we see an anomaly here where it's written like 4, and he kept, the error. But if Shel David, and again with the 7, we saw that in the tarot sheet revival that they retained, that Sullivan Hismans also retained that anomaly. But if I were to be made aware that Shel David sold any decks, for sure, I would be interested in purchasing. And here we see Dodali rather than Dodal. Made in Lyon by Jean Dodali. So this is a rather low-key video, just showing this particular publishing of the Jean Dodal Tarot by Shel David, and printed by Justin Michael. It's a beautiful deck. I think no matter who publishes it. Okay, so bear in mind that my next video in a few days will be the Jean Dodal, created by the Artisan Tarot. And then after that, I'll compare the 4 Dodals. I'll compare the Fleur Noir, which I think I've done other videos of, so I'm not going to do another one of this currently. But I will include it side by side with the one we just saw by Shel David, the Artisan Tarot deck, which we will see soon, and the Tarot Sheet Revival deck by Sullivan Hismans. So until next time, friends, please stay safe and healthy. Until next time, peace and stay well.